Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. This is Hemi Gupta, Managing Director of My Whole Child Center for Kids with Special Needs, GK2, and also the co-founder for My Whole Child Trust. Joining me today is Dr. Naveen Mehrotra, also Medical Director of My Whole Child Center for Kids with Special Needs, GK2, and a pediatrician from New Jersey, practicing for the last 28 years. Last few weeks has been very exciting for us at My Whole Child. It's been we've been giving virtual therapy to our kids in USA and in India because before we were only able to help kids. Whoever used to come to our center physically. But due to Corona, now we're able to help kids in the USA and in India and other parts of India through virtual therapy. And it's making a difference. Um, if you know of anyone or someone that needs help, feel free to contact us at mwcgk2@gmail.com. I would like to thank Momspresso and Ashiana for giving this platform. Thank you to all the super moms for listening to all the advice given by Dr. Naveen. Feel free to ask questions during this time. So go ahead during the session, guys. Go ahead and ask us questions. Last four sessions has been a beautiful journey to learn, share about pregnancy, brain development, nutrition, schools, etc. Today we have reached to our session 5, the bumpy ride of adolescence, where our parenting role completely changes from taking care to helping them transition into adulthood. This topic is very important to me personally, as my daughter is 6 and now she is dependent on me. Once she grows up, it makes me think how to be a better parent when she has her own mind, her own thoughts, her own wants. How do I become a better parent? And I also want to make sure how does she stay independent and on the right path. Before we start, let me ask Dr. Naveen, what are your thoughts on adolescence, Doc?
Thank you once again. It's great to be back, week after week to talk to our viewers and listeners. And as we go through the journey, and now we're reaching adolescence, it's almost that time when it's the time of independence, and it's the time of now transitioning into almost becoming an adult. So you, Hemi, still have a bunch of years to go. Me and a lot of other parents who've gone through this, I think, we've had our struggles, but I don't think it has to be a struggle. And I'm hoping that through this session that, we can impart some knowledge, impart some skills that everybody can take away from this and get some key findings here. Now, in adolescence, there are many different aspects to look at, and that becomes a huge topic in itself. And in the US, it is a separate specialty, but as a general pediatrician out here in practice, we end up seeing all aspects of child health, and adolescent being one of them. And I think the biggest challenge for a lot of our Desi parents is that communication. And, when we were growing up, we were maybe in a joint family, and we had lots of people there and a lot of cousins that were living there, and maybe our parents didn't have to deal with it as much. We sort of grew together as an entity in the family, but now we're in a nuclear family where everybody's in the cities, or they're having to manage everything themselves. It becomes a lot more challenging because there is so much more that you have to know about, and there is so much more that you have to be able to do at once. So adolescence just becomes another phase in life where parents have to really know how to interact with their child to make sure that the child goes on the right path, right? We as parents, we all want our kids to have, and I've seen this in some of the teachings that I have taken, some of the learnings that I have taken, that you can look at it as the 5 C's of positive youth development, right? What are the characteristics that we want in our child? So that becoming the first C. How are they connecting with everybody? in society? How are they connecting with family? How are they connecting with parents? So that becomes the second C, the connection piece. Are they competent? Are they able to go ahead and now at this point transition into adulthood and become independent to make sure that they can have a living, they can go ahead and have a family, or just be on their own when you as the parent are no longer in the picture? Then we worry about confidence. How much confidence does the child have? How can we boost up their confidence? How can we boost up their self-image? And how caring are they? When we get to be older, is my child, have I given him the skills to be that caring person so that when I need his care or when his family needs care, will that adolescent have taken those skills to provide that care back? So we want all of these pieces to be shining in our kids. We want these to be ingrained in our kids. And that is what makes our job an effective parent.
Yeah, Doc, that's true. You yourself have two adult kids who are in their 20s, and you've been through this journey. So, what better than hearing from a dad itself firsthand? But here we have many questions from our moms out there today. So, I will start with one of the very common question, which everybody wants to know. My kid will be entering into adolescent stage soon. While going through this, kids need space. Being a parent, how much private space should I provide to her? And is too much liberty can be risky too, isn't it?
Sure, and I think we can get into these questions even when we understand what are the different aspects of the development and how is it that each aspect of the development then is affecting the child and how is the child representing those phases. So we have, if we divide up into different segments, the first part being the physical development, secondly being the cognitive development, thirdly being social emotional development, fourthly being sexuality, finally moral values. So all of these come into play. And when the child is learning about all of these, exploring all of these aspects of adolescence development, they want to self-reflect, right? They want to go ahead and think about it. They want to connect with other peers. They want to know what is right for themselves. So a lot of the kids will become silent. They will go ahead and not communicate with the parents as much because they feel that the parent is going to come down as an authoritarian and will go ahead and dictate like they have been doing for so many years. So now this is the time for them to go ahead and self-reflect. And they need to do that by, just sort of isolating themselves and interacting with their peers. But as a parent, we need to make sure we know who are they connecting with and how much space do we give them. So we have to go ahead and have a fine line in between. Obviously, they need that space, but obviously you as a parent feel that you should go ahead and control them. So you have to come up to a happy medium. And I think throughout our journey, we've talked about communication and trying to build that communication link with our parents to make sure, with our kids, to make sure that they understand where we are coming from and we understand where they're coming from. So you need to be tracking where they are or what they're doing, but you also need to make sure you give them the space. Giving them space does not mean that you're going to isolate them totally so that you don't know what they're doing and are they, in the wrong crowd? Are they doing things that are detrimental to them?
True that. So, like you said, happy medium is the key to be happy and keep the peace in the family going. Um, we have someone wanting to know that my child is very moody and gets angry very easily. What should they do? And also, then there is also sometimes it's also due to a lot of negativity and comparison. Um, so, what should they do? I
Right.
think again,
So
these questions are again very common out there that I think all our moms are would like to know, understand, and get help from you.
sure. So mood swings are normal part of development, normal part of adolescence. We attribute a lot of that to the hormonal changes that the body goes through. So sometimes the hormones are surging, sometimes the hormones are not. So they go ups and downs. So they get very excited, they may get depressed, they may want to isolate themselves, they may sleep at all odd hours. So we have to understand that, right? At this time is not the time to keep on disciplining the kid and saying, oh, we never did this. Why are you acting this way? Why are you doing this? So you have to put yourself in the shoes of the adolescents and see where they're coming from. So ask them, what's bothering you? Okay, today you're not feeling so well. Maybe you're having the mood swings. Let me leave you alone. Let me go ahead and give you the space that you need. And then when you feel better, let's go ahead and connect. And at that point, you can then talk about adolescence and what are the challenges that the child is going through. What is it that is bothering them? Sometimes it may be nothing. And we think that, oh, okay, this is directed at me. This mood swing is directed at me. Okay, there's something that he's not liking about me. No, it doesn't have to be that way. It is something that they're just going through internally. Some of it may be aggravated when you keep on asking as a parent, oh, how can I help? Or what did you do this? Or you didn't do this right. Those are the things that are going to aggravate the situation. So when they're already dealing with the mood swings, and I guess you can go ahead and look at the other end of the spectrum when a lot of the women go through menopause, how they feel, how irritated they get, right? We just have to leave them alone and then go ahead and revisit at that point when the kid is calm.
Great advice, Doc. Then there is parents also want to know that their child likes to talk to me, doesn't like to talk to me, stays quiet all the time, and usually always into the mobile. How do they control that?
So you have to understand that the mobile is their sort of connect to everybody else outside. So if the child is on the mobile, obviously we've talked about media use and how much time should be on there, 1 or 2 hours a day. But now, especially during Corona, they're constantly on the mobile. But we have to see and we have to make sure that our kid we're communicating with, who are they communicating with on the mobile? Is it somebody that's safe? Is it somebody that we know? Is it somebody that they're falling in the wrong trap? And especially with the advent of the internet, the child has access to the world, right? Who are they actually interacting with? Who's misleading them or who's leading them correctly? Are they just connecting with all of their other friends? The text messaging, before I started text messaging, 5 to 10 years ago, I used to see my kids texting, right? And I'd be like, what are they texting? What are they texting? Why are they texting? Why are they on the mobile? But now this is the way that we communicate, right? So we could be on WhatsApp, we could be on text message, we could be on many different, media communications. So, making sure you give them that space, making sure you keep on reminding them not to be on it, but you have to understand that is their communication modality outside to their friends, to their peer group that they need that connection with. So there is no hard and fast rule in saying, okay, 1 hour is done, now you're off. You can try it, but most often you will end up coming into a friction, you will end up fighting with your child, and it becomes quite unpleasant. So negotiating and trying to come up with a strategy where both of you are on the same page and both of you are okay with the timing that you're on, then you go ahead and do it. If it is impacting their academics, if it's impacting their daily life, then you have to intervene and be a lot more strong with how you go ahead and implement that discipline.
Doc, that reminds me, is it right to stalk our kids on social media?
Um, you can try to stalk. You can try to be friends on social media with your kid. But I have realized this, and I think until now, when my kids are adults, they always have a way of sort of circumventing that and finding a bypass, and they will go ahead and do what they need to do, right? So the best thing is not to do it secretively, making sure that your kid has friended you on the social media so you can follow them and you can go ahead and see what they're doing. So there are kids that, parents have come in and said, oh, my kid is on Twitter, and wherever he goes away for a few days, he'll go ahead and keep on tweeting. And that is how I follow him, because he does not go ahead and send me a text message. He does not call me when he's away, or he does not go ahead and communicate with me. So, because she has followed him on Twitter, this mom was able to go ahead and make sure that the child is safe. That is an extreme case. I'm not saying that's the way it should get. What I'm saying is that now, to a point where my kids are comfortable with me because they're adults, that they're on social media with me. So I can see what they're doing and they can see what they're doing. So make sure you know what they're posting on the social media. And especially when we get into this in the next week, when we're talking about planning a career, a lot of the universities now, when a child gets admitted in, they go and look at the Facebook profile, or they go ahead and look at what they're tweeting, because the universities want to make sure that the kid that's coming into them is not somebody that they don't want in the university. So we have seen cases where as soon as the university went ahead and looked at the social media profile, they reneged the admission. So making sure you guide your child as to what they're doing on social media is extremely important, but not doing it secretively, but doing it with that open communication.
Um, yeah, true. So I guess we have to make them comfortable and find where they're comfortable of us having them in social media. And like you said, they will figure out their way if they don't want you to stalk them. So I guess that's what it is. Doug, how do parents approach um, the subject of dating with their kids?
Okay. This is something that is, I think, extremely difficult for a lot of us, because in our culture, it's not something that we talk about, right? It was about, getting an arranged marriage, and, what the parents tell you is the right thing. You go ahead and quietly, do that. I tell my kids I met my wife for about maybe 10 minutes prior to the wedding, and that's how it was at that point. That was a generation ago. But now, with the connection that they have with each other, with the uh, with the exposure to the world that they have, with all the different cultures that are coming into play, the kids are seeing dating as a norm, right? So we are saying the Western influence is coming into our Eastern culture, and the kids are adapting that, and they are out there. And I'm sure, with the influence of Bollywood, we've seen how the kids go ahead and, leave the house in one dress, and then they have their dress that they have put into the backpack, and as soon as they get to the college, they bunk the college, they change, and then they're out. So that there is some reality to it. There is a lot of peer-to-peer pressure that they get, because they want to be accepted with their peer circle. They want to go ahead and be and show everybody that they are now adults, right? They're doing things what their peers always dream about. So dating at that point becomes a norm. And for us to understand, are we okay with those values? Are we okay with our kids dating? And are we okay with having that communication so we know who they're with? Are they going out to the parties and, drinking when they shouldn't be drinking? Are they dating and engaging in activities that we don't approve of? Are they ending up with teenage pregnancies? So these are realities, and we always say that this is not happening to our kid, but you will be surprised what is happening out there. um, in New Jersey, where I practice, one of my many parents that come to me are of our Desi background, and they always go ahead and tell me that, oh, my kid doesn't do this, my kid doesn't do this, my kid doesn't do this. But as a practice in pediatrics where we are in the US, we go ahead and make sure we give that one-on-one time with the child. So we let the parents step out, and then we talk to the kid about how they're dealing with adolescence. And at that point, we get to know, because that is in total confidence, that the kids are drinking, the kids are experimenting with drugs, the kids are dating, and the kids are engaging in sexual activity. So quote unquote, that phrase, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, that is happening. We have to make sure that we as parents are communicating with our kids to know what they're doing and are we comfortable with it. If a child comes up to you and says, oh, or, a lot of times we'll get a parent coming in and saying, can you check my child for drugs? We'll go ahead and do that if the child is under a certain age. But if the child is independent, we need the child's authority to go ahead and do that. So, the child is doing something, but we as a parent have to make sure we are open to the child to ask them, what are you doing? Who are you engaging with? Not as an authoritarian, but as a friend.
True. I think that even answers the question for a lot of parents that how to cope with peer pressure. That kind of overall sums it up. Dr. Naveen, there is one very important topic that we would like to talk about it today. How do a parent can get into and make the child understand that no means no?
So there are, and I think this is all along the journey of being a parent, is how are you picking your battle? How are you picking your discipline? How are you enforcing your discipline? So if you are saying that if you do this, I'm going to do this, are you actually following through with your discipline and what is happening? Or how much are you trying to discipline? Are you micromanaging what the child is doing? Or are you actually picking your battles and then seeing what really matters, and what you are going to go ahead and discipline them on? So you have to find that balance, and you have to make sure that you are, once again, and this will keep on coming, that big C, communication and enforcement of the rules that are in the house. Your child will come back to you and say, well, all of my friends do this, this, and this. They all go to parties at this time, this time, this time. How come you don't allow it? If it is extremely important for you and you think your child is following the wrong path, you have to step in and you have to go ahead and say to them, your peers might be going ahead and doing this, but in our household, this is not happening. So I'm not condoning the behavior that, you allow your child to do whatever is being done outside. You have to, once again, see what is important for you and your family, and it becomes very individualized. And that's where, especially in our center as well, and many other centers out there, when they're offering behavior therapy or when they're doing psychological counseling, that is what's happening, because we are giving the skills, or we are bridging that communication gap that's needed between the parent and the child. And, I think all of the psychologists that we have on board at My Whole Child, they are working towards that, building that connect and making sure that, the parents have the skills that are needed.
We're pouring in with questions and we're running out of time, as every week to week. But my child is 12. She's observing changes in her body. What if she gets panic with unwanted changes in her body during this period? How should I handle this situation? Make her calm and aware and ready for the expected changes. Perhaps her questions might be building up to come out soon for satisfying her curiosity.
Right. And this is an extremely important question. And I'm glad somebody asked this, because pubertal body changes are some of the first things that a child will see. And you as the parent have to guide them on how to take care of their body, what to expect. Can you imagine if the child has no education and all of a sudden they have a menstrual cycle, right? How's the child going to react when they see blood? How are they going to take care of their hygiene when that happens, if the child has not been made aware of how to deal with it? So the parent has to be in open communication with the child, no matter how uncomfortable it makes you. You have to talk to them about body changes. As soon as any sign develops, you go ahead and tell them that, hey, this is happening. This is normal. Make sure you ask me if you have any questions. And periodically do that. It's not a one-time deal. It is an ongoing process that has to happen. So we have to constantly keep telling them, hey, what's going on? What's new? Tell me, are you having any questions? How can I help you? So in the US, it's part of the educational curriculum where they have to go ahead and get a course on puberty. In India, I don't think it's there yet, but we hope that soon it will be there. But it is extremely important because it's very scary for a child. Same thing with not just girls, right? Boys as well. Boys go through a lot of different body changes. They need to be made aware what those body changes are and what happens. Can you imagine what it is like for a child to wake up with certain physiologic changes that happen, right?
Yeah, true. Um, yeah, we will try to take as many questions with the remaining time that we have. But one important topic, Dr. Naveen, is how do we protect our child into getting into the wrong path, such as drugs? What would you be your advice on that?
So the peer influence that has been talked about here is extremely critical. Who is your child hanging out with? So, in the olden days when they had lots of cousins and they had, extended families, you knew who the circle of influence was for the child. Nowadays, we don't know what the circle of influence is, especially as they go to school or the university, we don't know. I always tell parents, bring those friends of your child into your circle as much as you possibly can. And that will once again only happen when communication is open. Who are they hanging out with? Who are they going to the party with? Who are they going to a graduation ceremony with? All of those things, because when you interact with their friends, you get to know what firsthand who their circle is. But if you're always only depending on what your child tells you, you will not know. And that is the first critical step in making sure your child is not going into drugs. The other thing is making sure that, if you're giving them money, what is that money being used for? A lot of times, you'll give them an allowance. What is that allowance being used for? Why is there a need for money? Making sure that you're tracking credit card expenses. So all of those things have to be done to make sure that the child doesn't fall into the wrong influence.
Dr. Naveen, you're trying to say that don't be a control freak, don't nag them, try to be their good friend, try to talk to them, come to a medium where you can communicate with them, and try to figure out, don't stalk them. I guess that's what it is. Dr. Naveen, let's just take the last two questions, and then the rest we will be able to answer. All of them, you guys can keep on pouring in the questions. We'll try to answer them one by one on the social media. Um, Dr. Naveen,
Yeah, last time I think we had what I couldn't answer the number of questions we had. It took like 5 days to do, or at least a week to do that. So don't give an open statement there.
um, Dr. Naveen, is there any diet things as the child are going through hormonal changes? Is there something the parents wants to know? Is there any dietary changes that they need to make or keep in mind as the children are going through hormonal changes?
Yes, it's extremely important to make sure that your child is eating well, making sure they're covering all the food groups, making sure they're taking milk, calcium, vitamin D for their bone growth, proper bone growth. We want to make sure that they're, not, we didn't really get into so many other topics, right? Body image. How is the child, especially nowadays with the effect of Bollywood and so much on the media, where everybody wants to be skinny and thin? Are they actually going into these eating disorders that they can, just not eat because they want to diet? So make sure that your child is eating well, make sure your child is eating healthy, not gaining a lot of junk food sort of fat that comes with it, making sure that they're taking the proper nutrition and vitamins that come along with that are required for their growth.
Dr. Naveen, we know that you have a son and a daughter, and you've been through this. And a lot of our viewers want to know that usually daughters they speak up, they're very close, they to their mothers or otherwise. But when it comes to their son, it's very difficult to make them come out and speak how they're feeling due to the generation gap or due to the, the distance between the parents and adolescents and or whatnot. Anything you would like to say? As that would be our last question of the day, as we have many questions pouring in, but we will try to close
Yeah,
out.
I see the phone going off with tons of questions. So, so once again, I think our culture has been where our dads have been sort of hands off, sort of the breadwinners, and the mom's been staying at home. But in the time of adolescence, this is the time when when dads need to step in and make sure that they're talking to their kids, to their boys, so that they can communicate with them as friends. Some of the topics that need to be discussed, the adolescent male will not be comfortable asking or talking to their moms, right? So they need to go ahead and once again be comfortable in their home environment to get the proper answers to their questions. And those questions, once they're openly answered, will bridge the gap and will make it a friendly relationship. So as long as you're not constantly being an authoritarian and telling your kid, do this, and this, and not listening to what they have to say, you will have closed the communication channels. So you need to keep those channels open. You need to keep on letting the child know that you are there as a parent, so that they can come to you and they can be comfortable asking about anything. So if they ask you about drugs, or if they ask you about dating, or if they ask you about sexuality, you should not clamp down and say to them, oh, this is not for you, or they can sense it, they see it on your face. It is an extremely difficult topic to talk about, because I don't remember ever my dad talking to me about it. But now with the times that have changed, we need to go ahead and learn how to communicate.
Great. And we have to wind up here, guys. So, our next session is our last session. You all stay tuned, and it's all about the careers of our kids and how to make them take that one step up. Any questions? We do offer virtual teletherapy, US and in India. Any further questions for anything, please feel free to email us at mwcgk2@gmail.com. And thank you very much for all your support.
Thank you.